Alright, so hello and welcome to my Hunt Showdown tutorial slash uh, buy or try this game video. So this is something that is kind of impromptu. I guess I've kind of been building up to it for a while because this game has been kind of on my radar for a long time for a variety of reasons. It finally came out on PlayStation recently, and so I finally got to try it. My PC's too old to have played it before, unfortunately. Although now that I'm playing this version, sorry, I need to turn down my headphones. So that, okay. So I guess, first of all, let me explain the purpose of the video. I want people to play this game. I think it's really unique and really special and really interesting. And I don't feel it gets a whole lot of attention. There's kind of a core niche audience for this game, but it seems surprisingly small even for... I think it's been a fairly successful game, and Crytek is a known developer, very known, well-known developer, but somehow this game just hasn't gotten a lot of traction. I think their marketing campaign is, well, basically non-existent, to be honest. This is one of the few games that I can thank stupid-ass IGN for introducing me to, because somebody was talking about it on some podcast eons ago, and I was like, oh, I don't know that game. I'm going to look it up. And it's a very strange game, and it's kind of hard to showcase, and it's difficult to explain, which I think goes for a lot of first-person shooters if you get down to it, especially if you're trying to talk to people that don't really, dip their toes into the genre very much, outside of maybe like Call of Duty. But I think that audience is growing, and I think like something like Apex Legends, which at least for me had a big positive effect, and kind of like finally clicking with that Battle Royale gameplay mode, and actually putting it in a game that I enjoyed. Having previously tried Fortnite, PUBG, and just could not really get into those games. And we'll go back in a little bit when I talk later to DayZ, which is actually how that all got started, and Arma, of course. But anyway, sorry, this is off the cuff, so I'm not really super prepared. But yeah, so the game is just kind of difficult in a lot of ways. Oh, I have some experience points. And really, like a lot of first-person shooters, like I think Battlefield does a terrible job at explaining the full range of its mechanics, and therefore I think a lot of people don't enjoy that game because they're actually playing it wrong. I'm not being elitist when I say that. Like I think there's a lot of even like frequent Battlefield players that don't know a lot of the mechanics because they don't seem to use them. So either the games are not teaching the players how to play them, or they're not making those mechanics interesting enough to actually use. There's always the question of matchmaking and like how experienced actually is the player, never mind the player behind the profile, but even like the profile that you're teaming up with or teaming up against. How is that level of experience actually being matched to an individual player? Because I feel like matchmaking in games and first-person shooters is usually not good. And based on news about Activision patenting specific ways to matchmake people against people that have loot or whatever that they're trying to encourage players to buy, I have a feeling that some of that is somewhat intentional. I don't know much about matchmaking. That's just a feeling that I have. Anyway, so the point of all that is that, Hunt Showdown is a game that you play online. It's sort of uh, a battle royale, a little bit more objective oriented. And you can play by yourself, or you can play with. Sorry. You can play with a squad mate, or you can play um, with two squad mates. So you could be. Basically, there can be up to squads of 3 in this game. I'm not really sure how the game separates people who are playing alone versus 3. I'm not sure that there's actually a lot of distinction there. But in any case, you have the option of how you want to play. For example, right now I can play by myself in a lobby that will allow squads of up to 3. So, and then I get a bonus basically with how much I earn in rewards based on that disadvantage. So that's kind of interesting too. You don't see a lot of that in games. I'm not going to start a round just yet. I want to kind of go over the menu. One thing I need to talk about is the UI. I'm playing on a PlayStation 4, so obviously it's not the optimal avenue for this game. But even so, I really kind of have to point out the AI in this game as being pretty bad and actually fairly lazy too. I feel like there's a better way to manage this stuff, and especially one of the more frequent things that you do, which is equipping your character, just feels very slow and clunky. So you have this kind of fake mouse cursor that you move around with the left stick. Every time you fly over something that can be activated, it slows down, which sometimes feels torturous if you try to do something like this. It gets the job done, but it just feels unnecessarily clunky. I feel like a Dark Souls menu allows me so much more freedom. Also, the UI is not terribly clear. You have all these options to select things, but like if you change screens, your options are changed, and it's just fairly messy. It's definitely like optimized for the PC and not for consoles, and that feels a little bit lazy to me. I hope that at some point they update that and take it seriously. Anyway, so like I said, there's just a lot to figure out in this game, and kind of the point of this video is to hopefully somebody will see it and be like, oh, okay, I kind of get how to start playing Hunt Showdown after seeing this. I get the gist of it. So basically, you're recruiting hunters. So these are your avatars. As far as I can tell, up to this point, there's no real way to change any of their appearance. So you just kind of get random hunters, and you're gonna recruit a bunch because they die. There's permadeath in this game, so you just don't get too attached to them anyway. You always have an option for a free recruit, and then there's tier 2 and other tiers of recruits that you can pay for, and that would be this currency here. There's another type of currency which you can buy, but you're actually given quite a bit of it at the beginning before you really know what to do with it. So I would say hold on to that. Don't spend it until you've kind of learned the game. You also get a ton of this currency, which I haven't actually ever run out of yet. And you use that to buy hunters and then to buy their equipment. You get a free reshuffle. I think it resets with every round of the game that you play, so it's fairly generous. Okay, so let's look at this. I have a tier 1 who's free. You'll notice that he has no skills equipped, so I have to earn points to get skills for him. And then you also have this randomized equipment, but like I said, equipment's not really expensive, so I don't really look at even what they have equipped. This guy's a tier 2. He's got 2 skills, another tier 2, and then a tier 3. Comes with 3 skills. I feel like the game is unfair in like the supposedly random picking of these skills that you are going to end up having to choose. It's kind of rare that I find a hunter that has 3 skills that I actually care about. You could take them off, but then that costs this kind of currency, which, as you can see, I don't have a whole lot of right now. So yeah, recruitment is something that is unexpectedly deep / complicated. You don't have to spend a ton of time thinking about it, but it is just a different way that the game handles something than, like Call of Duty, where you just have endless soldier guy and you never have to think about that. This game's a little bit different. So once you've recruited your hunter, you can arm them. So Calva Crowley is the first hunter that I actually had a lot of success with, and I got him up to level 50, so he's max level. So he can't level up, and as far as I understand the game, therefore I can't earn any XP for my overall profile with this character, because you only earn XP when these characters are leveling up, if I understand it correctly. Again, I'm not an expert in this game. You can find plenty of experts. I recommend 4FS is a channel on YouTube. The guy's great, and he's always keeping up with the new patches. Excuse me, and everything. So I've got Mr. Crowley here, but I've got Sigurd Klinge, and he's my current character. I've got him up to level 4, so not super far. And I've got him decked out with the weapons that, I think are useful. So you really have to consider your loadout pretty carefully in this game. But again, this is one of those wrenches where I think the game is throwing too much at you. It doesn't really explain the weapons too well, so you kind of have to learn. You can find, of course, a lot of that information on YouTube. But I just wish the game was more clear about the weapons. Anyway, this is what I've got picked out. I've got a fairly powerful single-shot silenced rifle. Sound is very important in this game. And then I've got this chain pistol, which doesn't do a lot of damage, but I can fire a lot of shots fairly quickly. So, and it's not silenced. I have the dusters, which come in handy for a specific type of enemy that can be very dangerous. These mines that create barbed wire, first aid kit, decoys, which I always forget to use, but I'm trying to unlock something that necessitates my using them. I don't know why I have this. Oh, I picked this up in the last match. So, see, this is kind of what I'm talking about. I want to unequip this, but I can't do it in this screen. So I have to come here, to select the item, come unequip it, and then I'm good. So it's just clunky. I'm never happy when I have to be in the screen. The information's not very clear. It's just obnoxious. As far as consumables, I have these 2 healing items. So I basically bring a ton of healing, because you can take damage from a lot of things in this game. And I have 1 stick of dynamite, and that's my Hail Mary. Alright, so once you're armed, you're ready to go on the hunt. Well, let's look at upgrades. So you have these various skills that you can upgrade your hunter with. Some of them are downright useless or pointless. So you kind of have to... This is one thing where you do really have to find information online to figure out some good use of points, because some of these are completely useless. Um, all right, so right now this character has something where fire will act has the possibility of permanently taking away health in this game. This skill kind of helps contradict that. And then I have this skill, which stops animals in the wild from making noise and being alerted when you approach them. I'll kind of explain that later once I get into the stealth and how you play this game. These are the two random skills that came with this hunter when I recruited him. But based on my last round, I have some points, so I can now spend them. This is a good one. Reduce fall damage. Kind of hate fall damage in games, and I think this game exaggerates it. Luckily, it's just 1 point to counteract that, so it's not too bad. Anti-poison is very good, but I can't afford it right now. I'm not going to get into the weeds of what all these are right now. Okay, so actually I don't see anything else that I think is useful. Yeah, I mean, basically I wish the game was balanced better around its skills, or maybe change the attributes of the skills to make them all worth it. But there's several duds that are just, you should never really use them. All right, and then you have the option to respec your character. You can remove traits. You can remove health. I'm not really clear, at least at the moment, on why that would be a benefit. Before we get into a round, let's look at just some more of these tabs. So this is the store where you can buy things. I haven't made it past the first prestige level, so much like Call of Duty, this game has prestige levels once you max out at level 100. I haven't gotten to that point, so I'm not super clear on how it's going to affect like what I have available or whatever. So really, to be honest, so far I haven't really found a lot of use for the store, except earlier when I was spending on my blood bonds and buying legendary weapons, because at the time I thought it was urgent, but like it's been several weeks of gameplay and I still haven't made it to level 100. So legendaries, basically when you prestige, they stay in your inventory. But again, I'm still not really even clear like what I'm going to lose. I guess I go back to level 1, so my hunters won't have access to higher level weapons, but they will these. I'm not really thinking or worrying about it, as you can tell, so I'll kind of get there when I get there. Yeah, but it turns out like everything that I bought that was legendary that I thought would be useful, I don't really, has not become like part of my regular loadout. So anyway, it's something that's there. There's tools, of course, consumables. I guess the way I play the store, obviously, I tend to be very conservative when I play games and not really use a whole lot of items. So maybe somebody else is getting, way more mileage out of this, but it's not for me. Leaderboards, not something I look at too often, but it's kind of cool. Those are some pretty impressive stats, certainly. I'm pretty far down on the list, obviously. I'm not the best at aiming in this game, I'll tell you right now. And then you have your manual, your list of monsters, your list of weapons. This will show you how close you are to unlocking. Okay, let me find an example. Okay, so this weapon is locked. I have to unlock a specific requirement Oftentimes you unlock a base model, and then as you get experience with it, you unlock uh, an advanced model. So like this one has a Deadeye scope, but I have to get 1,000 experience with the base model first. So that's kind of how weapons work. The weapons obviously are like old timey to go with the like Western theme. So yeah, there's no machine guns or anything in this game, and it's all like very methodical, and that's kind of what I like the game for. Is it's kind of a slow, methodical shooter with spurts of like intense action. So it's kind of like a baseball game. All right, so this is your progress screen. It's not super useful. You can go back and look at, I guess, what things unlock when. Maybe that'll become more pertinent when I prestige at level 100, but I'm still pretty far away. Alright, now let's get into the game proper. I don't really want to get into quick play because I haven't done a ton of it, and it's complex enough on its own that I think if I really like want to talk about it, I'll just come back and do a separate video. The main game mode is Bounty Hunt. Okay. In this mode, you can play by yourself, with a teammate, or with two teammates. And you're trying to hunt a monster, or possibly two monsters, who are somewhere randomly on the map. There's clues throughout the map that will, once you activate them, will shut out parts of the map, letting you know the monster's not here. So it could be in these other locations that are not marked off. You're competing with other players, obviously, to kill the monster and extract. So once you kill the monster, you have to grab a trophy from him. Each monster drops 2 trophies, and you can only carry 1 from a specific monster. So that's where the teammate part comes in. And then you have a dark vision that is affected by various things in the game. And then you have to extract from the map. That's very important because once you start a round, your hunter is basically trapped on the map. And if you don't extract that hunter, then they die, and you lose them. You lose all their items permanently. There's a little bit of a break with this in the early game. You get, I think, 10 deaths that are worry-free, and you get everything back. So that's kind of useful for new players. But yeah, the name of the game is not even kill the monster, it's extract from the map. That's really the most important thing. So you kind of gauge your level of risk that you want to take. Do you want to just get a couple points, kill a few monsters, get a clue, and then extract? You can do that. But obviously you're kind of chickening out from the full game. All right, so now that I've talked your ear off, let's actually get into a round. And I think you'll see once we start... Oh, wait. I don't want to bother teammates right now, especially since I'm talking and a lot of people use mics in this game. So I'm going to play by myself. I'm going to allow teams of 3. So as you can see, I get a pretty big bonus for doing that. But obviously the risk is higher. I think you'll see once I start why I wanted to kind of get through all that information outside of a match. Again, the theme of the day is this game, along with many others, does not explain itself very well. So I'm trying to help it out because I really do like the game a lot, and I hope that more people start playing it. It's not exactly empty, but you do kind of... You notice it in the matchmaking. And since I'm playing alone, you won't see it. But when you go, let's say you want to play with two squad mates, and you hit the matchmaking button, and it'll start matching you up. But there's a lot of like drop connections, or people leave, I guess, because they feel you're too underleveled for them. Which begs the question, why am I even being matched with them? Probably because there's few people. And then so you can also drop out of the running and try to get, two more squad mates. And you'll run into the same people often. So that tells me that there's not a huge pool of people playing this game, even like on weekends. The game is $40 to buy new online, which I think will feel pretty steep to most people. I have seen it go on sale a couple times. Oh, and there's also like a limited edition, and then there's add-ons. So it does have some microtransactions. I think you can. I bought the extended edition. I think it was on sale for like a very low sale. I think it was like 15%. But basically, the price I bought it for, the extended edition, was under the $40 full base game price. I think there's a lot of value in this game. You may not feel that way after a few rounds, but I think if you give this game like 20 or 30 rounds, you'll see that there's actually a lot of depth and a lot of range in the kind of experiences that you could have in the game. I unfortunately don't have any friends that I've been able to convince to play the game, so I play with randoms, and as you might imagine, there's a pretty wide range of different experiences with that. There's a lot of trolling, but there's also a lot of cool people who will surprise you by healing you and reviving you and saving you, sometimes to their own risk. And you kind of sometimes feel bad if you're down and you're spectating a teammate who's trying to revive you, and they end up dying. All right, so first thing I like to do is look at my map, which is always obscured. Again, the UI is not very good here. Here I am. There's somebody right by me. I always try to play this game with headphones, by the way. The sound is very important in this game, and it's pretty good. Some people praise it quite a bit. I think it leaves some things to be desired. Maybe that's the PS4. It's not always clear which direction things are coming from. Anyway, so there's two maps currently in the game. The maps are always the same, but the distribution of clues and monsters is always different. And I've noticed that sometimes you get a lot more information on the map, sometimes you don't. I'm not really sure what that's about. It could be random, maybe it's rules changing between the number of people in your squad or team. Again, the game doesn't explain itself. Okay, so this is your dark vision. You can be heard while you're doing this, by the way. So you kind of emit a low hum, but it helps you see things like clues very clearly on the map, and it does also sharpen your hearing and make it more directional, so you can use it to listen. Okay, so there's like mob enemies throughout the world. They're pretty dangerous. Once you learn how to deal with them each, they become way more manageable than they are at first. But they're kind of a constant threat. Although sometimes they can also help you against other human players. Alright, so since I'm talking, I'm a little bit distracted. Let's choose where we want to go. Again, keep in mind that I could have started with two teammates, so you can kind of decide. You have this spotting system, which is kind of similar to Apex, let's say, but it's not as complex and it's not as good. And I really wish it was, because there's a lot of different kinds of information that you need to convey to teammates in this game, and you're not really given an opportunity to. If you use a mic, that helps a lot, but there's a distance limit. So you won't be able to hear your squad mates past a certain distance. Interesting, but I don't think it facilitates gameplay all that much. Okay, again, I'm totally forgetting where I'm going. All right, so this one is the closest one. Okay, so that big fucker right there is something I need to stay away from. Everything you do in this game makes noise, except for a very few number of things that you can actually buy skills to lessen the noise. There's a lot of things that sound like humans. I'm pretty sure by design throughout the world. And you kind of have to think about how much noise you're making when you're dealing with things like these monsters. Because basically you could be leading a human player right to you by making noise. Oh, she saw me. I don't know how she saw me. I didn't think I was that close. Obviously, there's things like these ducks will make a bunch of noise and fly out if I get too close to them. Monsters will start making sounds when you alert them. So these hives shoot out these poisonous bugs. Oh, that's not good. Oh, the reload on this rifle is an eternity. Okay. Like I said, my aim in this game is not the best. There's quite a lot of options as far as controllers and like changing the speed of your cursor and stuff, so you can mitigate all this stuff. I just find that the game for some reason is hard for me to it's just hard for me to aim in this game for whatever reason. I come across games like that every once in a while. Something I guess about the UI or whatever doesn't click with me. Okay. That's something I really love about Battlefield is that the shooting in those games has just always like really clicked with me. This one not so much, so I struggle a little bit. So now as you can see, the map has been closed off. Now, you don't want to hang around clues too much because other players are going to come and investigate those clues, possibly, because they're hunting for the same monsters. That horse will make noise if I get close to it. That guy will wake up if I get close to him. So, as you might have noticed, there's kind of a dual purpose in this game. Are you hunting the monsters or are you hunting players? You can kind of do both, or specialize, or you can make up your mind as you go. I think that makes it really interesting. But another thing... Got lucky on that one. So once you kill the body, the swarm disappears. Since I have so much trouble aiming in this game, I don't generally go for hunters because it's pretty hard to hit a moving player. But I've had some limited success with it, you know, it's not impossible. It's definitely easier playing with a squad. You know, you definitely get a sense of confidence. But you'll know pretty quickly when you're up against a player that outranks you, outclasses you severely. Like they'll down you pretty quick. Usually before you ever see them. Ooh, Almost ran into those crows. I think that horse is like an actual dead horse. Yeah. When it's half the body like this, it's not going to wake up. But occasionally there's horses that are like pretending to be dead. They'll make a bunch of noise when you get close. And again, to reiterate, I'm actually close to one of the exits. Ugh, the cursor's never where I want it to be. I'm close to one of the exits, so I could just leave. I've killed a few monsters. I could get a few points and live to fight another day, right? But that's not really the point of the game. You know, you wanna get one of the trophies from the monsters. And what I really like about this game is that if you're like me and you are kind of flexible in the way you play the game, or games in general, I guess, you could often find that there's lots of opportunities to actually win and succeed in this game that can come from luck, can come from just, you know, being adaptable and sometimes even blundering into things. So that's what I like about it. That's the aspect that kind of reminds me of Battlefield, where, you know, like in Battlefield, you can be an assault rifle guy, medic, or you can fly in a jet, or you can do both and then get in a tank later. So you can kind of change it up within a round. I think that's what makes Battlefield really fun for me. Likewise, in this game, things can just turn out very different from round to round. You might sometimes get killed by monsters, to some pretty weak monsters, actually. And then other rounds you might be in a squad with 2 people and you're actually doing really well and getting things done and killing hunters and all sorts of stuff. And the game just has a beautiful tension to it. God damn it. Oh, please stop moving your head at the last second. Okay, so I'm getting my ass kicked over here all of a sudden because I couldn't hit that damn head. Alright, so I can't heal until the poison goes away. You... God, finally. I have a sudden urge to move my head uncontrollably and unpredictably. Quote, enemies in games. So where'd you even fucking go now? I guess she left. If you're not into stealth games at all, this game will probably not interest you. I'm into stealth games. Kind of need to figure out how I want to get out of here. Heal. So basically, lastly, I think the quality that this game has that it makes it really unique is something that goes back to DayZ, where you're playing online, you're competing, and then there's also like zombies and monsters that you need to take care of. Obviously, this game has more variety in the enemies. In that game, it was only zombies. But it's an interesting mix of like tension and horror, even, and cooperation and competition. Uh, I don't think most people would think of DayZ when they play this game, but it really reminded me of some of the experiences in that game, because that game was not just that. Although it became DayZ became battle royales basically. But DayZ was not always that, you know. So yeah, this game has an interesting DNA, and I totally recommend it. If you catch it on sale, I think even if you just spend $30 on this game, although you can probably find it on sale occasionally cheaper, I think you'll definitely get your money's worth. I think even at $40, it's a good value. All right, let's talk about what's happening real quick. So somebody else has found the monster, killed him, and they are now extracting the trophies. So this is the banishing part, as you can see on the top left. There's quite a ways to go. Once the monster is banished, they can pick up the trophies and run for an exit. So what happens now is usually if there's any opportunistic hunters who are confident of their skills, they will head for this place and try to kill them, ambush them, whatever. There's a variety of things that you can do, obviously. I'm not that bold. As I've said before, I'm not too good with aiming. What I was saying before, though, is there's been instances where people, like a rival gang, will show up, and the people that killed the monster and are defending the trophy, they'll just kill each other off. And I've come upon monster nests that are just surrounded by dead players, and I just take the trophy and go to the exit. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm just going to cut and run. I'm trying to get this hunter to survive. And I think I've kind of shown the gameplay to an extent. So yeah, I think I'll just head for the exit. So northwest. It sounds like there's plenty of people down there shooting at each other. I don't really want to get into that. I'm more of a stealthy, like, scavenger type. So those are the enemies, immolators. They're on fire. If you don't damage them with this kind of damage, which is blunt damage, they will explode and catch you on fire, and it can become a nightmare. All the enemies have the potential to become a real nightmare for the player. Once you learn their properties, it's a lot easier to manage them, but you have to kind of think about that when you're creating your loadout. So that's kind of where the fun is you're creating a loadout, you're entering this like high risk type of gameplay, which is very battle royale-ish. But then there's also just traditional like skill-based shooting, you know. So the game really does bring a lot to the table. So I don't want to go on and on about it and just like overanalyze or anything. I just think it's a really unique and interesting game. I've certainly enjoyed it very much, and I hope that more people play it so that I can play with more people. So Sneaky Meat and whoever the other guy was, they've now grabbed their trophy, so they're thinking about which exit they want to make it to. The exits are also random. There's always 3 in every round. Um, they'll likely go for this one because it's the closest one, but you never know. And I've participated in some ambushes, certainly, alone and with other players, successful and unsuccessful. Oh. See, the horse, I ran pretty close to the horse, but he didn't whine because I have a perk that prevents it. If I get... See, that they make a lot of noise. Alright, so there's my extraction point. That's another thing about this game is that I really appreciate the world design, but it's almost too realistic. And it's kind of hard to know your way. I've been playing the game for a while, and I have a pretty good sense of direction. I don't get lost too easily. But I don't find the maps like too memorable, so I still kind of get lost. You have to check your map a lot. So I'm trying to find a way to train my brain to mitigate that and like really learn my way around. So we'll just come out of here. Load times are pretty long, unfortunately, so we're about to hit one as we get to the results screen. But yeah, DayZ was something really special for me, and I'm always on the lookout for anything that even resembles that experience. This game does to a large degree. It's quite different, obviously. Now, talking about the PS4, there's the issues with the UI and using the controller not really meshing. As far as performance, you can tell that the game is sacrificing visual quality for performance because the performance is very smooth. Unfortunately, the visual quality is so up and down and often subpar that it is still distracting. Like, I'm often distracted by glitches in the visuals and pop-ins and stuff like that, even though I'm not being distracted by frame rate drops and lag and stuff like that. So it's kind of a mixed bag. I would say if you can play this game on the PC, and if you have a good PC, I think that's the way to go. But I'm primarily a console player. So this game also has one of the weirdest ways that it levels up. So you earn experience points, which takes you up through these tiers. Every time you complete a tier, you earn experience points, which go to this like grander level up timeline for each character. So this would be level 50 for this hunter. And when you meet these thresholds, you get experience points for your overall profile. So it's very weird, and it turns out to be like very grindy. I usually hate grinding games, but I think that this game, so far at least, because there's so much to learn and try out, I actually appreciate the time. So I'm curious to what the game is going to feel like when I prestige for the first time. But so far, I've really appreciated the extra time to like really kind of be forced to like learn a little bit of everything. It reminds me of when I enjoyed Battlefield 3. I don't think like if I had to start at a level 0 character in Battlefield 3 or 4 right now, I probably wouldn't enjoy it because it's a very linear type of grinding. Unless you buy their fucking loot boxes, of course. But in this game, it seems to kind of spread out a little bit more evenly. Because I went up 5 levels with this hunter, I also earned 5 ability points. So now I can go buy some abilities. You can see the full mission detail, so everything that happened in the mission. Not a whole lot because I was playing by myself and I chickened out. so not a whole lot to see here. One thing I don't like about the game is that it doesn't show like a really good breakdown of the round, and I wish it did, saying like, oh, you killed 2 hunters and your teammate killed one and revived you once. It doesn't provide anything like that. I'm kind of puzzled as to why. I wonder if it might be a choice to make the player not get so hung up on little things like that, to kind of get it away from that Call of Duty mentality. But I wish the information was there somewhere for me to see, because I'm just curious about stuff like that. Anyway, so we continue, and let's go to our roster, and go to upgrades, and let's buy some skills for this gentleman. Bloodless, that's very useful. I think I'll probably end up buying that, but let's look at them. So this one's really useful for crossbow users, but I'm not currently into the crossbow. I was for a stretch of time. Right now I'm kind of more into guns, so I'm not going to buy that perk. Get a health boost when picking up a clue. That just doesn't seem all that useful to me. I mean, I guess if you get into a bad scrape and you're out of healing items, that could come in handy, but usually I bring a ton of healing. This is something I go for usually: determination. Stamina recovery starts sooner. I like to run around a lot. Fanning is really good. Faster rate of fire when using one-handed single-action pistols. So for a lot of pistols, you can just send a hail of death towards somebody. That's good for me because my aim's not very good. So Lightfoot is good, but I usually can think of other stuff that's more useful first. Oh, anti-poison is really useful because, as you can see, you can't heal yourself while you're poisoned. Actually, I think this one is more necessary than the bleed, because bleed, you can always heal over bleed, but poison can leave you depleted for a long time. They're both good to have. This one's really good if you're playing with squad mates a lot. You can get revived with up to 100 health, so that's really useful. Anyway, I don't think there's much more to say. Here's one thing: you have to come back after every round and kind of replenish things. I don't really love this style of like buying things. I guess it's related to the microtransactions. They want you to eventually like run out of currency and be like, all right, I'll give you $5 and get a bunch of money again. It does kind of make you think about what you're putting in your loadout, which is good for this game. But I kind of just wish everything was available and I could just try it out. But yeah, you can clean your weapons, but I'm not really clear on how much it affects performance or anything. But basically, you're ready for another round. And like I said, there's a whole other game mode called Quick Play, which changes things around. But I don't really want to get into it. I feel like Bounty Hunt is the main draw for this game. I mean, they're not so terribly different that like you can write off Quick Play. I haven't found that I enjoy it as much because there's no option to play with other players in that. So I enjoy the co-op aspect, even if it's not as strong sometimes with random players. Anyway, I could probably keep talking. But I recommend Hunt Showdown very highly. I think even at its full $40, it's worth the buy. If you find it on sale, I think it's a no-brainer. I think you should try it. Anyway, I hope you try it and enjoy it, and keep playing games out there. See ya.